The sides of the canyon are black and orange, like a fire caught burning and turning to rock. It's so deep, Eli says, looking up in wonder. In this spot, the walls rise higher than any building I've ever seen, higher than the hill. It's like someone huge made cuts in the earth and dropped us inside. I know, I say. In the carving, you see rivers and caves and stones that you never see from above. And as though suddenly you are down close looking at the workings of your own body, watching your own blood run and listening to the sound of your heart beating it through. It's nothing like this in Central, Eli says. You're from Central? Vic and I asked at the same time. I grew up there, Eli tells us. I've never lived anywhere else. It must seem lonely to you out here, I say, remembering how when I was Eli's age and moved to Oria, it felt a different kind of loneliness. The loneliness of what seems like too many people. And how did the anomalies get stuck in here anyways? Eli asks. The original anomalies chose to be anomalies. Back when the society came to be, I tell Eli. I remember something else, too. And the one who lived in the carvings don't call themselves anomalies. They prefer to be known as farmers. But how could they choose? Eli asked, fascinated. Before the society took control, there were people who saw it coming and didn't want to be part of it. They started sorting things inside the carving. I point to some of the curves and bends in the sandstone walls. There are caves hidden everywhere. In here, the farmers had enough food to see them through until some of the seeds they brought could be planted and harvested. They called their settlements a township because they didn't want to use the society's words for that either. But didn't the society track them down? Eventually, but the farmers had the advantage because they came in first. They could cut down anyone who tried to follow. The society thought the farmers would all die off sooner than later. It's not an easy place to live. Part of my coat has come unsealed, and I stop in the pinyon for more sap. They also served another purpose for the society. Many of the people in the outer province were too afraid to try and escape to the carving because the society started spreading rumors of how savage the farmers are. You think they really try to kill us? Eli asked, sounding worried. They used to be merciless to anyone's society, he said. But we're not a society anymore. We're not aberrations. They don't kill aberrations or other anomalies outright unless attacked. How will they know what we are? Eli asks. Look at us, I say. We don't look like citizens or officials. The three of us are young, dirty, and disheveled, clearly on the run. So why don't your father bring your family in here to live, Vic says. The society's right about some things, I say. You die free out here, but you die faster. The farmers don't have the medicine or technology in the canyon that the society has outside. My mother didn't want that for me, and my father respected it. Vic nods. So we're going to find these people and ask them for help, since they helped your father. Yes, I say. And I'm hoping to trade with them. They have maps and old books. At least they did before. And what do you have to trade? Vic asked sharply. Same thing that you and Eli have, I say. Information about the society. We've lived on the inside. It's been a while since there have been any real villagers in the outer provinces, which means that the people on the canyon might not have been able to trade or talk with anyone for a long time. So if they do want to trade with us, Eli asks, sounding unconvinced, what are we going to do with all those papers and old books once we get them? You can do whatever you want, I say. You don't even have to trade with them. Get something else. I don't care. but I'm going to get a map and try and reach out to one of the border provinces. Wait, Eli says. You want to go back into the society? Why? I wouldn't go back, I say. I'd go a different way than the one we came. I'd only go back far enough to send a messenger to her, so she'll know where I am. How can you do that? Eli asks. Even if you did make it back to the border province, the society watches the ports, and they'd see it if you sent anything to her. That's why I want the paper from the township, I say. I trade them with the archivists and have ways of sending messages. They don't involve any ports, but it's expensive. An archivist? Eli asks, puzzled. They're people who trade on the black market, I say. They've been around since before the society. My father used to trade with them too. So this is your plan, Vic says. There's nothing more than what you've told us. Not right now, I say. Do you think it will work? Eli asks. I don't know, I say. Above us the birds start to sing. A canyon wing, and the notes are haunting in the distinction. They descend like the waterfall down the rock canyon walls. I can identify the calls before my father used to mimic it to me. He told me it was the sound of the carving. He loved it here. When my father told stories, he blurred the line between truth and tale. They're all true in some level, he said, when my mother would tease him about it. But the township in the canyon is real. I've always asked to make sure. The stories you tell about that is true. Yes, he said. I'll take you there someday. You'll see. So when it appeared before us around the next bend in the canyon, I stopped short of disbelief. There it is, exactly as he said. A settlement in the wider part of the gorge. A feeling of unreality settles over me like the light of the late afternoon and spills over the canyon walls. The township looks almost exactly the way I remember my father describing his first visit. The sun come down and made it all golden, bridge, buildings, people, even me. I couldn't believe the place was real, though I'd heard about it for years. Later, when the farmers were taught me to write, I had the same feeling, like the sun was always on my back. The winter sunlight set in the orange glow, and the buildings were bright bridged in front of us. Here it is, I say. It's real, Vic says. Eli beams. The buildings before us clutter together like the spirits apart around the rockfall or river. Houses, bigger buildings, tea fields carved out where the canyon opens wider. But something is missing. The people. The stillness is absolute. Vic glances over to me and I feel he feels it too. We're too late, I say. They're gone. It's been too long. I can still see their tracks here and there. Also see sightings of the parable to leave. This wasn't a rushed departure, but one taken with care. Twist black apple trees have been harvested. Only a few golden apples still shine on its branches. Most of the farming equipment is gone, taken apart and carried away by the farmers. I guess a few rusted pieces remain. Where did they go? Eli asked. I don't know. Anyone left outside the society? We passed a stand of cottonwood trees on the bank of the stream. A small windy green grows alone in the edge. Hold on, I tell two others. This won't take long. I don't cut deep. I don't want to kill these trees. I carve her name carefully in the trunk, thinking, as I always do. And when I heard her hand on mine to teach her to write, Vic and Eli don't say anything while I carve. They wait. When I finish, I step back and look at the tree. Shallow roots, sandy soil. The bark is gray and rough. The leaves are long gone by her name and still look beautiful to me. We were all done, drawn to the houses. It feels so long since we've seen a place built by real people with the intent to stay. The houses are withered and made of pieces together sandstone or worn by gray wood. Eli climbs the steps of one of them. Vic and I follow. Kai, Eli says, once inside, look. What I see inside makes me reconsider. Maybe there was an element of haste to their departure. Otherwise, would they have left their houses like this? The walls were specked in hurry, and not quite enough time. They are covered in pictures of the farmers that had more time they would have washed the walls clean. They say to show so too much. In this house there are boats painted in the sky, mourned by the pillow over the white clouds. The artist signed his name in the corner of the room. Those letters claimed the painting, the idea, as his own. Although this is the place we've been looking for all this time, I still catch my breath. This township is where he learned about writing and painting. Let's stop here, Eli says. They help bunks. We could stay forever. Aren't you forgetting something? Vic tells him. The people who lived here left for a reason. I nod. We have to find a map and some food and get out. Let's check the caves. I've looked in all of the caves along the side of the canyon. Some of them have painted walls like the houses, but we don't find a single scrap of paper. They taught him to write. They knew how. Where would they have left their words? They could have taken all of them. It's almost night and the colors of the painting shift to gray in the fading light. I look up the walls of the cave. We're searching. This one's weird, Eli says, looking at the painting. Too. Some of it's missing. He shines his flashlight up the walls. It's been damaged by water and only the top of the painting remains. Part of the woman's head. All you can see is her eyes and her forehead. She looks like my mother, Eli says softly. I turn in surprise and look at him. Because that's the word that's repeating over and over in my mind right now. Even though my mother never came here, I wonder if that word mother is dangerous to Eli as it is to me. It might be even more dangerous than father, because I feel no anger towards my mother. Only loss. The loss is the feeling you can't fight your way out of as easily. I know where they must have hidden the maps, Eli says suddenly. There's a giant and cunning in his eyes and I haven't seen before. I wonder if I like Eli so much, not because he reminds me of Bram, but because he reminds me of myself. I was about his age when I stole the red tablets from the Caros. When I was new to Oria, it was strange to watch the people flood out of their houses and workplaces and the air trains all at once. It made me nervous, and the way they moved at the same time in the same places. So I pretended the streets were dry gulches from the homes and the people were the water after the rain turned and the dead beds in the streams. I told myself that the people in the gray and blue plainclothes were nothing but another force in nature moving along. But it didn't do me any good. I got lost in one of the barrows of all places. Alexander saw me using the compass to try and find my way back home. He threatened to turn in Patrick for letting me keep a useless it unless I stole some red tablets. Alexander must have known then that I was an aberration. I didn't know how he could tell so quickly, so I never talked about it after. But it doesn't matter. The lesson was a good one to learn. Do not pretend one place is like another or look for similarities. Only look for what is. Where? Eli, ask him. He waits for a moment, still grinning, and I remember this, too, the moment of the reveal. I held out my hand to show Alexander the 2 red tablets I'd stolen. He didn't think I could do it. I wanted him to know I was his equal, even though I was an aberration. Just once, I wanted someone to know before I stared the life and pretended to be less than everyone else around me. For a moment, I felt powerful. Like I felt like my father. Where the water can't reach, Eli says now, looking at the painting of the woman with has washed away. The caves aren't down here. They have to be up high. I should have known, I say, and the three of us hurry out of the cave and look up a different cliff. My father told me about the floods. Sometimes the farmers saw the river rising and knew what it would happen. Other times during the flash floods, they almost had no warning at all. They had to build the farms in the canyon's floor and where there was space, but when the waters rose, they took to the higher caves. The line of survival is thin in the carving, my father said. You hope you're on the right side of it. Now that we look at them, the signs of the old floods are everywhere. Marks of the sediment, the canyon walls, dead trees wedged high in the crevices. The violence and the speed of the flash floods, the force it would take to do these things is what one could bring to society to their knees. I've always thought it was safer to bury stuff, Vic says. Not always, I tell him, remembering the hill. Sometimes it's safer to go as high as you can. It takes us nearly an hour to find a path. We went from below in an almost impossible speed. The farmers cut it into a cliff, so it bends perfectly with the sacred canyon walls. We follow the path higher and higher until we go around and the side of the cliff along the bend and was visible from below. I imagine you can't see it from above either, only if you've dreaded to climb right into the spot and look closely. Once there, we see the caves. They're all perfect places to store things, high and hidden and dry. Vic ducks into the first one. Any food in there? Eli asks. His belly grumbles. I grin. We rationed our food carefully, but we've stumbled upon a township just in time. No, Vic says. Kai, look at this. I duck inside and to find him in a cave that holds only a few bulky containers and cases near the door, and I spot marks of footprints where someone recently had dragged some of the stockpiles out of the caves and hauled it away. I've seen cases like this. Watch out, I tell Vic, and I pry open one carefully and look inside. Wires, keypads, explosives, all society issued from the looks of it. Could the farmers have been in the league with the society? It doesn't seem likely. But the farmers could have stolen or traded for these things on the black market. It could take years to assemble and catch what could fill the cave like this. What happened to the rest of it? Eli rustles behind me, and I hold up my arm to keep him back. It looks like what's in our coat, he says. Should we take some of it with us? No, I tell him. Keep looking for some food. And don't forget the map. Eli shields out of the cave. Vic hesitates. It might be useful to have, he tells me, gesturing to the stockpile. You could rig this stuff up, right? I could try, I say, but I'd rather not. Better to use the space of our packs for food and paper if we find them. What I don't say is that the wires always lead to trouble. I think my father's constant fascination with them helped bring about his death. He thought he could be like Cyprus and turn the society's weapons back on them. Of course, I tried the same thing with Elder Decoy when I rigged the gun before we ran for the carvings. And I likely didn't turn out any better for them than it did for my father's village. It was dangerous to try and trade with this. I don't even know if the archivist will touch it anymore. Vic shakes his head and doesn't argue. He moves farther back into the cave and pulls out one of the rolls of thick plastic. You know what these are? He asks. Some kind of shelter, I ask. I look more closely. I can see ropes and tubes rolled up inside. Boats, Vic says. I've seen some like this before in the army base where I lived. The most he said about his past, I wait to see if he will say more. But Eli calls out in a voice filled with excitement. If you want food, I've found it, he shouts. We find him eating an apple in the second cave. This must have been the stuff that was too heavy to carry. he says, and it's all kinds of apples and grains and lots of seeds. Maybe they stored in this cave. They had to come back, Vic says. He thought of everything. I nod in agreement, standing there looking at what they've left. I feel admiration for these people who live here, the disappointment. I would have liked to meet them. Vic feels it too. We've all thought about breaking away, he says. They really did it. The three of us fill our packs with food from the farmers' stores and take the apples and some kind of flat, strong bread that seems like it will last for a long time. We also find a few tatered mashes, and the farmers must have made themselves. Maybe later there will be a place where it's safe to have a fire. Once we finish filling our packs, we find a few more in the storage cave and fill them too. Now for a map, something to trade, I say. I take a deep breath. The cave smells like sandstone, mud, and water, and apples. I bet it's here, Eli says, his voice muffled. At the back of the cave, there's another room. Beck and I follow him around the corner into another recess of rock. As we shine our flashlights around, we see that it's clean, well organized, and full of boxes. I walk across the room and lift the lid of them, the pack with books and papers. I try not to think. This must be the spot where he learned. He could have sat right here on this bench. They left so much, Eli whispers. They couldn't carry it all, I say. It probably took the best of it with them. Maybe they had a data pod, Vic suggests. They could have entered the information from the books on that. Might be, I say. Still, I wonder how hard it would be to leave all these real copies behind. The information in the cave is like priceless, essentially the original form, and their ancestors had brought it all in originality. It must have been hard to walk out without it. In the center of the room stands a table made of small pieces of wood that have the carried through the entrance to the cave and pieced together. The whole room, like the township, had the sense of being assembled carefully. Every item seems filled with meaning. The society didn't drop it into your lap. You worked for it, found it, and made it yourself. The shrine, my light on the table across the hollowed-out wooden bowl filled with the charcoal pencils. I reach inside and pick one. It leaves a small black mark in my hand. The pencils remind me of the tool I made for writing back in the burrow. I gather pieces of wood and a few times on the hill, and when the maple trees in the burrows lost its branch, I tied them together and lowered them into the incinerator to char the end of the writing and drawings. Once, when I need bread, I stole a few petals and one of the blood-colored perennials of the flower bed and used them to color the official's hands and my hand and the sun. Look, Vic says behind me. He found a box with maps inside. He pulls some of them out, and the warm light of the flashlight changes in the paper, making them seem even older than they really are. We shift through them until we find one that recognizes the carving. This one, I say, spreading it out on the table. We all gather around it. Here's our canyon. I point to it, but my eyes are drawn to the canyon next to ours in the map. A spot that has been inked with a thick black ink X, like the rows of stitches. I wonder what that means. I wish I could rewrite this map. It would be much easier to mark how I want the world to be instead of trying to figure out how it really is. I wish I knew how to write, Eli says. I'm sorry, I don't have the time to teach you. Maybe someday. Right now we have to keep moving. It's beautiful, Eli says, touching the map gently. It's different from the way we paint on our screens back in the society. I know, I say. Whoever made this map was something of an artist. The colors, the scale, the whole thing fits together perfectly. You know how to paint? Eli asks. A little, I say. How? My mother taught herself, and then she taught me. I say, my father used to come here and trade with the farmers, only he brought a paintbrush back for her, a real one. But he couldn't afford any paint. He always meant to get her some, but he never did. Then she couldn't paint, Eli says, sounding disappointed. No, I say, she could. She used water on rocks. I think back to the ancient carvings, the small creases near our house. I wonder now if that where she had the idea of writing on stone. But she used the water with her touch and the gentle ways. Her paintings always vanished in the air, I tell Eli. Then how did you know what it looked like? I say. Eli says, I saw them before they dried. I say, they were always beautiful. Looking at Eli, I fell silent. I could tell they might not believe me. They might think I was making this up, remembering the pictures that I wish I'd seen. But I tell the truth. It was almost like her paintings lived in the way they shone and vanished, and the new things appeared under her hands. The pictures were beautiful both because they were looked while excited and because they could never last. Anyways, I say, there's a way out. I showed them how this canyon continued through the plains, the other side where we'd entered. Judging by the map, there's more vegetation out there, and also another stream bigger than the one in the canyon. The mountains on the opposite side of the plain have a small dark house marked on them, which I take to be a settlement or a safe place. It seems it's the same marking the farmers use to donate their own township on the map. The past, that's the north in the mountains. It's a place marked society. And one of the borough provinces. I think it will take 2 or 3 days to reach the plain. Another few days to cross it and get to the mountains. There's a stream on the plain, Vic says, his eyes brightening and inspect the map. Too bad we can't use one of the farmers' boats to go down it. We could try, I say, but I think the mountains are a better option. There's a settlement there. We don't know where the stream leads. The mountains are at the top edge of the map. The stream runs down and disappears at the bottom of the paper. You're right, Vic says, but we might be able to stop and fish. Smoked fish lasts a lot longer. I slide the map towards Eli. What do you think? I ask him. Let's do it, he says. He puts his finger in the dark houses in the mountains. I hope the farmers are there. I want to meet them. What else should we bring? Vic asks, looking through some books. We can find something in the morning, I say. For some reason, the neatly ordered, abandoned books make me feel sad and tired. I wish Cassia were here with me. She'd turn every page and read every word. I can picture her in the dim light of the caves, her bright eyes, her smile. I close my eyes. That shadowy memory might be as close as I come to seeing her again. We should sleep now, I say, pushing away the doubt there's no good in it. We need to start as soon as there's light. Eli, I turn to. What do you think? Do you want to go down and sleep at the houses? They've got those beds. No, Eli says, curling up on the floor. Let's stay here. I understand why. Late at night, the empty township feels exposed to the river, to the loneliness that settles in when the farmers left, and the ghostly eyes, the hands of the paintings they made. Here in the cave, where they kept things safe, seems like a place that we might be safe too. In my dreams, bats fly in and out of the cave all night long. Some fly flat and heavy, and I know they're full with the blood of those other living things. Others fly a little higher, and I know they're light with hunger, but they all have noisy, beating wings. At the end of the night draws near, I wake up, and Vic and Eli still asleep, and I wonder what it was that disturbed me. A sound in the township? I walk to the outermost door in the cave and look down. A light flickers in the window of one of the houses below us.